Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wild Side. I'm Tyler Smith, your host, and this is a new segment brought to you by Something in the Wild. It's a kind of like a sit-down, informal session where I real quick talk about all things outdoors. And today, I got some pretty interesting conservation topics that I want to get into. So here we go. Here's number one, corner crossing. This has been a debate as old as 1800s, whenever the United States ended up splitting the federal land of the West into a checkerboard style pattern. Now, for those of you guys unfamiliar with the laws, corner crossing is essentially whenever you cross from one piece of public to another piece of public with two adjacent private sections of land that kind of meet at a point. So think about like a checkerboard style pattern. You got red squares, you got black squares. Corner crossing is whenever you cross from red to red without touching the black. Think of the red as public, think of the black as private land. Now that was illegal, or there was some gray area in the law for the longest time. But back in 2021, there was a group of 4 hunters in Wyoming that ended up bringing a ladder out with them to go elk hunting near Elkhorn Ranch, which is out there. It was owned by some millionaire, and they brought this ladder out there, and they were able to cross from public to public without touching private land. But the landowner's argument was that they were trespassing through his airspace, right? So kind of an interesting, weird argument, and went through a whole bunch of legal proceedings, ended up at the 10th Circuit Court, and eventually that court ruled unanimously that the hunters were well within their rights to go from public to public, and they were not trespassing. A huge, huge win for public land. And let me pull my phone up here because this is absolutely astonishing. Onyx did a kind of like a little study to see how much land was unlocked because of this new ruling. And it's somewhere in the ballpark. I don't have the actual number with me, but it's somewhere in the ballpark of around like 5 or 6 million acres. It's in the millions, man. Like that is a whole lot of property that we can now roam as hunters and anglers. So kudos to those hunters for, taking a stab of faith, and to all the lawyers and stuff like that, and everyone that donated to the cause. It's pretty spectacular. So good on them. Good on them. Next up, we have a very interesting turn of events here down in Texas. So Texas have this representative. His name's Pat Curry. Introduced a bill on March 13th aiming to dismantle the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. So he wanted to completely get rid of the department entirely, and just faced immediate backlash. Like I'm talking right as soon as he introduced it into the House. All of Texas basically reacted and said that it was a complete. They were like vote him out. There's no reason he should be in Congress and all this stuff. Arguments were, wildlife, that the Texas Parks and Wildlife Division spearheaded wildlife conservation efforts, law enforcement, hunting, fishing, and outdoor recreation, all that stuff. It's alleged that this representative, he introduced this bill because he owns a game farm, allegedly, and he was upset with the new CWD rules that they had put into place. So this was kind of his retaliation effort, and it was not met well. That's what happens whenever you try and take away hunters and anglers, the departments that they really care about. So good on Texas for sticking up for themselves. And this last topic, it's kind of a little bit of a doozy here. So essentially, and I'm going to talk about this in terms, I don't want to be too political or anything like that. So, I'm just going to stick with the stuff that I know, stuff that I care about, and that's conservation, wildlife, wildlands, public lands, things like that. So recently, Trump announced that he's looking to develop a sovereign wealth fund for America. Now, this might not mean a whole lot, so I'll kind of break down what that is and why I think it's important for public lands. So a sovereign wealth fund is basically a giant pot of money that sovereign nations use to combat inflation at times, for investment opportunities, stocks and things like that, just to kind of further bolster the nation's wealth. Think of it as like a savings account, basically, for a country. And the U.S., we don't really have one, at least not one that's of any substantial size. There's a few. Well, this is all over the world. Tons of other countries have sovereign wealth funds. Currently, we have Norway at these are the kind of the leaders right now. So Norway's got a $1.74 trillion sovereign wealth fund. China's right behind them at $1.33 trillion. And the lack of the United States having one is kind of concerning because we are very, very much like a wealthy nation, and we should have something like this. I don't know if we have a smaller one or whatever, but I can understand the sentiment to want to put something like that in place. The problem lies in the fact that the United States has around $5.7 trillion in assets. And a lot of those assets are tied up, government buildings, and things of that nature. The thing that I'm concerned about, and I think that a lot of Americans and public land enthusiasts should be concerned about too, is that the U.S. federal land ownership equates to about $1.7 trillion. Now that is awfully, awfully close to the true $2 trillion mark that Trump wanted to hit. And Trump basically gave the Secretary of the Treasury and the Secretary of Commerce 90 days to come up with a way to develop this sovereign wealth fund. And I think that the biggest concern for our public lands is this sovereign wealth fund. If they decide, hey, let's just sell off our federal land and we can build that sovereign wealth fund up, I think that it very well could happen. I don't know if that's at all constitutional. I'm sure it'd have to go through a ton of approvals, and it might not even end up being something that goes through. But it is something that you guys should be keeping an eye on. I know that I definitely will, and I feel like not a lot of people are talking about it, probably because there hasn't been a plan put in place yet, so it's just speculation at this point. But whenever I read that, the news report from the White House saying that they were looking to build that up, my thought immediately went to, okay, what are they going to do? Are they going to sell off public land? Are they going to, go through other avenues? I'm just not sure, but make sure that you guys are paying attention to it. That's all I got for you today. Thank you guys so much. Told you it was going to be quick. I'm going to be posting videos like this all the time, so be sure to check out the YouTube channel. We also post videos every Friday about trips and adventures and hunts and fishing trips, all that stuff. So if you like what you heard here, or you just want to check out some more entertainment type stuff, be sure to look at the YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Hope everyone's having a great day, and make sure everyone to keep it wild.